Time for a drawing a blank. You know whose knee that is. Tom Brady was on the practice field Tuesday.
Yeah.
Bucs mini camp went through the majority of drills and activities despite some skepticism coming off knee surgery. Skepticism, schmesticism. Bruce Arians told the Tampa Bay Times TB12 was going full speed. Not a word. Brandon, Tom Brady going full speed at mini camp is blank.
Look, he had a knee procedure a couple months ago. He should be fine. It probably was just a small cleanup. A lot of guys go through that procedure and they bounce back fast. But Tom Brady's 43, going into year 21. I got to go with too soon. Like, he doesn't need to be out there. Like, we got the whole season ahead. But I get it. Man, I'm telling you right now, when your starting quarterback isn't out there, he's not in a huddle, the whole team just feels different. The whole vibe is just different. So a lot of times when you go out to these mini camps or if you just come to a practice, you'll see the starting quarterback down there take every single rep. You'll see the star players like maybe a Champ Bailey, a Darrelle Revis, a Julius Peppers, a Luke Kuechly. They'll have some vet days. They'll have some plays where they take off. They want to save their legs. But the starting quarterback has to be out there. But when you're 43, Nick, and you're Tom Brady to go, you probably shouldn't be out there, especially after you had a knee procedure.
And going full speed and going so hard, the coach has to pull you off the practice field. I read this report, and it reminded me of one of the most famous sports reports ever. This was out of North Korea a decade ago. It reads, "Dear Leader Un, shot no worse than a birdie on any hole, also had 5 holes in one. In a round that was witnessed by 17 armed guards en route to his record 38 under par." That was propaganda, and this is propaganda, and I'm sick of it. Guys, we know he's the GOAT. We know he's the defending Super Bowl champion. We don't need this endless, mind-melting oh, Tom Brady, he won every wind sprint. Tom Brady can chug the fastest beer. Tom Brady, we had to drag him off the practice field. Then we saw him breaking in, trying to scale that wrought iron fence. Enough. Wilds, it's enough. The endless propaganda has to end. Bruce Arians, you're better than this. It's enough. Can't deal with it. Can't deal with it, Wilds.
Okay. The only thing I can't deal with is you saying that he would, be the fastest beer chugger where we know it's just avocado tequila at all times. So, no, that was the big red flag there. Hey,
no, that
I'm
was
on
another
health watch
story
for
about
Bucs
Brady.
camp.
I'm sorry to
Chug-
interrupt you,
is that a
Wilds.
real
That's another
story?
thing they've said about him. Yeah, that he won all the beer chugging competitions because it's all endless propaganda. Google it during the break. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I apologize. As the foremost authority on Chicago dogs, I also have a tangential of being the foremost authority on beer chugging. So sorry, America. I'm on health watch because we know the narrative of the Bucs is that they brought back all 22 players. But one little bonus, O.J. Howard's back. So I'm really looking forward to seeing videos of O.J. Howard back, seeing how he's going to be, and the Bucs can actually be better. And the narrative, like they brought back everybody, they're just the same. Like, they actually got better, Jenna.
All right, can we take a turn and talk some MVP now? NBA announced yesterday Nikola Jokic is the big winner for this season. Jokic is the 6th international MVP and the first in the common draft era to be picked up in the second round. You know who else was picked up in the second round? Danny Ainge. But that's a story for a different time. Also, not an...
In that first half, I thought the storyline was and was going to continue to be that the Clippers was the most explosive team on the court. I thought the Clippers were the team that we talked about 2 years ago, how dominant they were. I mean, Rondo looked like he was, a young 22-year-old Rondo, the way he was getting up the court and playing defense. They looked amazing. And then all of a sudden, Spider Mitchell kicked in that second half, and it was lights out, Nick.
Yeah, so the only predictable thing that happened in this game, Brandon, or one of 2 predictable things I should say, is the Jazz won by 3 when I laid the 3.5. That's about how my NBA playoffs have been going, even when I'm right. Somehow I'm wrong. Like, just devastation. I'm just like, I'm watching that final possession of regulation, and I'm like, I need Marcus Morris to make this 3 so it can go to overtime so the Jazz can win by 4. But that was not to be. But here's the other predictable thing. The Jazz came out rusty and the Clippers came out hot. And then rust gave way to tired legs, and rest ended up carrying the day. This was the Clippers' 8th game in 18 days. The Jazz had been off for almost a week. So it was not shocking that the Jazz came out and missed, well, it was a little shocking. They missed 20 consecutive shots. But it wasn't shocking they came out and their shot was off. And it wasn't shocking that the Clippers, feeling great about how they played in Games 6 and 7 against the Mavs, were able to carry that a bit through the first half. But then in the second half,
that's right,
in front of that sold-out, incredibly loud arena, the Jazz got going and the Clippers wore down. So there are certain times where when a team loses, I'm like, hey, they actually should feel good about it, even though it's the playoffs, especially if it's early in a playoff series. If I'm the Clippers today, Wilds, I don't feel terrible. I'm like, okay, you know what cost us this game? Games 1 and 2 against the Mavericks. Like, what cost us game 1 in the second round is that we weren't ready to play games 1 and 2 against the Mavericks, which made us play 7, and we couldn't go the distance. The other thing that cost them the game is something you called yesterday that I was not ready to go with you on, which was Donovan Mitchell played like a superstar. The Wilds, the most famous Donovan Mitchell moment from the season was Shaq kind of awkwardly on Inside the NBA. Remember, he interviewed him. He's like, hey, Donovan, I said before the show, you're not that great. What are your thoughts? And Donovan's like, I don't know. Shaq got killed for that. When I watched it, I was like, I actually agree with Shaq. I maybe wouldn't have said it. That I look at Donovan as a really good player, but not a guy who's going to do what he did last night, not a guy who's going to be able to be the best guy on a team that could make the finals. You said yesterday, Wilds, that the path for the Jazz is see if Donovan can score 50. He damn near scored 50.
Yeah, right. See, here's the funny thing about the playoffs. And the Jazz have been a very distribute the ball, you know, multiple guys in double figures. But when it comes to the playoffs are different, right? You can lean a lot on one guy. And granted, Conley was out, so I think Donovan had to, you know, carry more of the load. But here's the thing of what we're watching, the ascension of Donovan Mitchell. When we always hear the playoffs are different, not only because of the scheduling is different and everyone plays harder, but there's 3 groups of guys who their performances can kind of go into 3 categories. The first category is guys who, like, don't love the playoff pressure. And I would put, like, James Harden in there. I'd put Chris Middleton in there. I'd put Paul George in there. The other big middle group here is basically everybody else. You're kind of dealing with the pressure. Your game is pretty much the same. And then you've got guys at the top of the mountain who love the pressure, who thrive in the pressure. And of the guys still playing, that's about Kyrie hit one of the biggest shots of all time. I know you're going to say it's LeBron's game, but I'll just say they had similar points. KD, obviously, Finals MVP. Kawhi, also 2-time Finals MVP.
Kawhi.
And Donovan. And I know you're like, Wilds, that's like that. Those are like 3 superstars. You can't put Kawhi there or Donovan there. I'm like, no, you're wrong. I'm going to go a step further. Can we see the historical stats, Katanik, of how good Donovan's been playing? This is the last 40 seasons. Nick, he belongs there. This is just statistics. So I'm expecting another big series out of this guy as he's one of the greats, and we need to start talking about him like it.
Okay, so I'll meet you halfway. What I will say is this. Donovan, as a rookie, eliminated Paul George and Russell Westbrook in the first round with a 38-point performance, which showed you he was not going to be a guy that got worse in the postseason. He was going to be a guy potentially that got better in the postseason. Am I ready to put him in that group of guys like Kawhi, like KD, like LeBron, who you know are going to up their game and carry a team? I'm not ready to do that yet, and I think that's a bridge too far. However, what is true is this. There is only one player in these NBA playoffs who is undefeated. That player is Donovan Mitchell. He is 5-0 so far in these playoffs, and he was absolutely brilliant last night. And so he is moving himself towards that, and the Jazz are going to need a lot more.